We head to the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio and check in with Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com. Cecil, how are you doing on this Tuesday?
Great. How are you, Travis?
I could not be better, my man. Now, I'm not a Game of Thrones guy. I've been transparent in that. I'm not anti-Game of Thrones. It dominates my timeline for much of Sundays into Mondays. That's fine. Great. Hey, whatever blows your hair back, right? But I got to ask you, because I saw so much consternation and borderline depression, I thought we were going to have to make grief counselors available here on the program yesterday. A lot of not good reviews about how that series finale went Sunday night. You are, I know, someone that is, I'm guessing you've read the books, right, Cecil?
No, I haven't, actually, and I don't have the 7 years invested in it. But I watched this season and sort of, first of all, there's so much information just, going on social media that you could piece together the timeline pretty quickly. But now I'm not going to pretend to I'd be more Marvel Universe or Lord of the Rings than I would be Game of Thrones. But with that said, I did watch this season.
So give me the Cecil Hurt review of the series finale in terms of thumbs up.
I thought in general, based on what people say about the previous seasons, this season seemed rushed. And it's hard to wrap things up. It's hard to bring a story where you get all of your storylines to come together. And with that said, I thought they sold a little more than they delivered, probably, in terms of the battle for the Iron Throne. When you spend 7 years build up that they're fighting for this Iron Throne, you want somebody to win it. You don't want to get to the end and like I said, have the playoff committee decide who gets to be king. You want them to play it out on the field. So that was a little bit disappointing, I think, for a lot of people. Other than that, it was, it's entertainment, and it's fine entertainment. Some people, people get wrapped up in that. Some people get wrapped up in who the WWE Tag Team Champions are. So it's all entertainment, and I don't take it too seriously.
So since you didn't maybe have the same investment in time in it as you probably did, say, The Wire or maybe The Sopranos, how would you rank it in terms of HBO series in your personal pecking order there, Cecil?
The Wire is absolutely outstanding. The Wire, anybody who hasn't seen The Wire should go back. It's 5 seasons and just tremendous acting, tremendous writing, tremendous characters. So The Wire is the best. There were some good things about Breaking Bad. There were some frustrating things about Breaking Bad and its spinoff, Better Call Saul. I'll be interested to see if Game of Thrones has a spinoff somewhere. Sopranos was great. I wasn't as much of it. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't watch every single episode of the Sopranos, but it's certainly deserves, what I can tell, certainly deserves its ranking. I think The Wire is the best of all those miniseries or extended series. I guess a miniseries is more like Roots, but extended series. And it's tough to maintain the momentum. There've been so many that people have been excited for a couple of seasons. House of Cards or True Blood or so forth, and then they kind of ramble off into the fog. And I do think great credit to Game of Thrones for building up to a strong, highly rated, highly discussed final season.
Yeah, I guess if it comes down to half of your fan base loving it and half of your fan base not liking it as much, you probably did a pretty effective job there with the close. Now, HBO specific, I'm with you on The Wire and The Sopranos. I mean, they are a dead heat for me at the very top. But I was a Deadwood guy. We're going to get a Deadwood movie. Deadwood movie coming up with a cameo apparently by Jason Isbell. And I thought 6 Feet Under was really good there for an extended stretch.
Yeah, it was. So was Weeds. Weeds is underestimated. But you can. I mean, sometimes, and I'll be honest, and this is the one that people can. I think this is true for a lot of people, although there's some people who would be passionately against. Star Wars has lost me. I can't keep up anymore. I'm not going to all the movies and trying to figure out. First of all, the non-chronological saga hadn't helped much. The original 3 are actually now the middle 6 or whatever. And the last couple of movies I saw, I didn't think were compelling movies. There was, there's a little nostalgia value to them, but as far as the Star Wars universe and who's doing what and what's going to happen, hey, more power to you if that's your thing. But they've lost me on Star Wars. So, so that can happen. My point being, Game of Thrones, at least, that they said what they had to say and went their way, and I credit them for that.
Yeah, sustained, no doubt about it. Speaking of finales, Cecil, the recruitment of Trendon Watford apparently came to a close yesterday over at Mountain Brook High School. I know you were in attendance. We have talked about this Watford situation, LSU, Alabama, Memphis, Indiana, to an extent, I guess, involved here with the 5-star forward from over in the Birmingham area seemed to be trending, no pun intended, the way that it went ultimately yesterday. Relationships, right? And I understand, I'm sure each of the 4 finalists or perceived finalists had those ties to Trendon Watford, but is that really what it came down to? And not just in terms of Will Wade. I think people they equate the head coach to the recruit and think it's all about that relationship, but there's more to it usually, right?
No, it's just assistant coaches. Bill Armstrong, who played at UAB and coached at Birmingham Southern for many years, had a long-term relationship with the Watfords, and that's part of it. Now, again, I'm not here to gainsay the Watfords or criticize them for making whatever choice they make, but I think that they made it with the understanding that if you choose LSU, you're going to have to explain that, and a lot of people aren't going to buy your explanation right now. So that's just part of what you have to deal with. I think when you talk about it being trending, I think when they didn't eliminate LSU just right out of the gate following the Will Wade wiretap revelations, that told you that they were pretty seriously involved with LSU for whatever reason. So the Watfords gave their reasons. Certainly not here to say that they weren't those aren't valid reasons. I'm just saying I think they understand there's skepticism and there's going to be skepticism until this thing plays out. So if they can live with that skepticism, then again, it's certainly their choice to make.
I was asked on another program this morning, Cecil, about Alabama coming up short in the recruitment of Trendon Watford. I wasn't asked about a Final Four team in the state, in Auburn not being involved even in the top 4, but state lines when it comes to recruits, high-level recruits, elite recruits, especially in college basketball, other than a few of the blue blood states that are home to the very best programs in college. Should we ever be surprised when a top 15, top 20 recruit leaves a state like Alabama to go somewhere else, or should we be more surprised that it's for an LSU and not a North Carolina or a Duke?
I think it's hard. Yeah, when it's for an LSU, let's be honest, they had a nice season. There's nothing special about that program. You know, you could say the same thing about Alabama's, but they're not North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, Duke. So probably to be perfectly fair, they're not Gonzaga right now. But they had a nice year, and so, but yeah, that's part of the situation. I don't think anybody. Put the shoe on the other foot. What state in the country are you sitting there? If you're the head coach at good old State U, and you've got a 5-star kid that's popped up, and you know where is there a coach who's comfortable here? And well, Alabama's coming in on Thursday, and Clemson's coming in for a visit on Friday. You know, that's a different deal. You know, and so nobody keeps every single in-state kid, even in football, and certainly not in basketball, where so much of it is your allegiance now isn't state allegiance. Oh, there's some, and should be some, but it's AAU program allegiance.
Cecil, at this point, we sort of expected maybe this typhoon to hit college basketball in the form of the federal investigation and the trials and the wiretap information that was released in relation to Will Wade and the program at Arizona. But at this point, what motivation is there really for guys like Will Wade and Sean Miller to be honest and or forthcoming with their superiors in all of this? I mean, why would they be at this point with where we're at and all of it?
I don't know what, you know, other than you signed a contract that said that you'd do certain things, but you know, if you just regard that as a piece of paper, then there's really not. I don't see any external factor that would keep you from acting with impunity.
Yeah, I mean, your career on the line.
I'll be at SEC meetings next week. I'll be interested to hear, and if it doesn't come up, I'll ask Greg Sankey what he thinks about that. But we'll see at the conference level, and certainly the conference has influence at the NCAA level. But you know, I don't know that. I couldn't sit here and honestly tell you there'll ever be a major infractions case again. You know, maybe there will, but they certainly don't seem to be in any rush. You know, and my general impression right now is they want to kick this trial wiretap, keep kicking the can down the road, and 2 or 3 years everybody will have forgotten and it's over. You know,
amazing, isn't it?
We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll do something different. But until they do, sure. Why would anybody? And I'm not going to single out Will Wade. Why would anybody pay attention to you know, anybody in enforcement or anybody in their administration who says don't do that?
Yeah, I mean, in admitting or being forthcoming.
You know, because the coach's attitude is you're just going to play against them anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Why should I sit here and do that?
Yeah. As expected, I know you reported this morning, the university has made it official. James Rojas, the junior college All-American from Hutchinson, Kansas Community College, has joined the Alabama men's basketball program. Cecil, I guess like any other coaching staff worth its salt, Nate Oates, Brian Hodgson, Antoine Petway certainly had a contingency plan in place with the.
Well, yeah, I actually think they would have signed Rojas regardless. of what Trendon did. Now, maybe they didn't want to do something before Trendon did something, out of the remote possibility. Yeah, and maybe the Watfords told him that was one thing that worried him. I don't know. Who knows what the Watfords told him. I think he's certainly a player who's good, and I'm saying he's better or worse than another player. I'm just saying I think he's a guy, a top 5 national JUCO recruit who, if you have a chance to sign him, you sign him. I think that's what that was. And we'll see. We'll see how he can contribute. He seems, certainly had a long relationship with Nate Oates, and it looks like the guy who will fit in his system and be a valuable piece to the puzzle that they're putting together, regardless of where anybody else goes. Remember, I will say this in order to close this out. The biggest thing in recruiting is not the guys you don't get. It's the guys you do get who don't help you. That's what hurts you in recruiting. So if you can get a guy who helps you, then that matters. The guy you don't get, and nothing you can do about him once he's gone. Not a thing. So
James Rojas, also originally from New York State, so that familiarity.
They got a long relationship. He would have. I think had everything been academically in order, he would have signed with Buffalo 2 years ago. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cecil, as we let you go here, we're talking with Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com on Southern Fried Sports, presented by Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa. This run by Penny Hardaway with a huge assist from Mike Miller on that Memphis staff has really dominated recruiting headlines here in the late period on the college basketball scene. And it gets me to thinking, Cecil, why can't the University of Memphis athletic department be Louisville? Instead of being an AAC team, be an ACC team. I know that the tradition and the accomplishments of Louisville basketball, not only basketball, but football, I think you could throw in there as well. But do you think there's some parallels with what Penny might have going in terms of momentum and Memphis being much more formidable on the football field of late? Is that possible? Is it possible for Memphis to be Louisville at least at some point in the future?
I think it's possible. You're talking about a long-range thing, and there are some other factors, where your academic standing does affect. And then there's also, let's say, geographically, Memphis would fit fine in the Big 12, which has 10 members and probably would not be reluctant to add 2 members if they were the right 2 members. But now whether Texas is going to sit there and say, well, fine, we'll let Houston and Memphis in and split the money evenly, and we feel like that's a good academic match, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. And sometimes, it's easy to say when you're Central Florida or when you're Memphis. And Louisville was able to do it, and credit to Louisville for being able to get that spot in the ACC based on winning national championships in basketball, among other things, and being more competitive in football. But there were also other things that the city of Louisville, is a growing city, a little different than nothing against the city of Memphis, which I really like, but a little bit different situations there, I think. But yeah, I mean, I could see if Penny keeps this up, if they're a perennial top 5 Final Four type team, if football continues to be strong, I could see them trying it. Obviously, Central Florida's trying it, although apparently Central Florida thinks they're too good for the Power 5.
They need some
level above. They need some level above Alabama and Notre Dame to sufficiently contain their greatness. But it is. I will say it's not just a one-way street. It's not just like you can drive down there and get there. It takes an invitation. So whether the SEC or the Big 12, I would seriously doubt the SEC. So whether the Big 12 would eventually look at say, Memphis and Houston, which had a great basketball season, it was a big city and so forth, maybe. I'm not going to say it couldn't happen, but it would have to, it's going to take time. And it's not just one basketball season that's going to do it.
Yeah, that pizza man money didn't hurt up at Louisville,
No,
in terms
and Houston's got that kind of deal too now.
Oh, they do. No doubt about that.
So, and Memphis does too now. That FedEx money doesn't hurt anything either.
No.
So that's
well.
all part of it. That's all part of it. But again, I'm sitting there at Iowa State, and I might be saying, I like this 10% slice of the pie a lot better than I'd like that 8% slice of the pie. Mm-hmm. So, that's part of it too.
You got Ole Miss and Memphis in that season opener coming up on August the 31st. That's a big game for Matt Luke, isn't it?
It is. I'm be interested to see how, and I can't sit here and say that I'm well versed in what Memphis has coming back football wise, but they seem to have got that roster, and they'll miss the running back. They'll miss Henderson, who is in the NFL now, but they seem to have got that roster built up where they're pretty competitive at that level. So it'll be interesting to see how they do.
There you go. Cecil Hurt on a Tuesday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Always appreciate Cecil's unmatched insight and thoughts on everything sports, Game of Thrones. We got into a little bit of – we didn't get into Tom Petty much today. We've done that before, though. But, Cecil, as always, my man, we appreciate you joining us here on the show.
Okay. I'll be in Destin next week, but give me a call.